I have two brief questions I'd like to ask, if I may.
Hi, welcome to Left Foot Media. My name is Brendan Malone and you're watching The Daily Question. Today's question of the day: does innocent until proven guilty apply all the time? Now, the reason I'm asking this question is because a lot of people have been suggesting in various different forums, including in comment sections on my YouTube videos, that in this Kavanagh case, the presumption of innocence doesn't actually matter because the presumption of innocence, according to them, only applies in criminal trials or in criminal court. Well, I'm going to explain why that is simply not true in just a second, but here's a couple of different variations of how I've heard people putting this. One is I've heard people suggesting that this is not a criminal trial, this is more like a job interview, so the whole criminal proceedings type, innocent until proven guilty doesn't apply. Well, let's imagine this happened to you. Let's imagine you're in a scenario where you're sitting in a job interview. You're before a panel. You're being interviewed for a very important job that very few people have the chance of actually obtaining in their lifetime. But you've worked hard, you've studied hard, you're in this position, you're very close to obtaining the job, you all the other criteria you're certainly more than qualified for. And then all of a sudden someone on the panel says, look, we've actually had a couple of people who have come forward and accuse you of raping them. Now, here's the thing, don't panic, this is not a criminal trial, and we're not going to apply the old presumption of innocence until proven guilty, so we think that this actually ruins your credibility and you're not going to get this job because, we don't have to apply innocent until proven guilty and properly establish the facts of these allegations. It's just the fact that these allegations exist are enough to actually challenge your suitability. You would not tolerate that if that happened to you. You would not tolerate that for a second. You wouldn't accept that and say, oh, well, yeah, that's fair enough. It's not a criminal court, so, you should just presume that I'm guilty of something just because someone's made an allegation. Another version of this that I've heard is people saying that this is not about a criminal conviction. This is about credibility. This is it's about where does the credibility lie. But here's the thing, we still test for credibility. You don't just automatically assign credibility to an allegation just because someone's made the allegation. You still have to test the credibility of the allegation. So effectively, even though it's not taking place within a criminal context, you still have to actually evaluate the truthfulness of the claim that is being made. And in order for you to reliably evaluate the truthfulness, you have to use reliable criteria to measure the credibility of that claim. It's not just an emotional sense you might have or the way a certain person presents themselves. You've actually got to find corroborating evidence. You've got to find a clear case where it looks more likely than not that the allegations are true. That's how you establish credibility. But here's the thing. The idea that presumption of innocence until proven guilty would not apply outside of a courtroom is absolute nonsense. It seems to be based on this mistaken notion that the idea that we should presume a person is innocent until they are proven guilty is something that solely lies in the domain of criminal courts, that it was some idea or principle that we invented just for the court system. That's not true at all. The reason the court system follows that principle is because it's a pre-existing moral principle. It is the moral position to adopt. It's not about the judiciary and criminal codes of conduct. It's about this being the moral thing to do. It's about how do you actually act in the way that is most moral according to the principles of natural justice. How do you conduct a trial in the most just way possible? How do you treat a person in the most just way possible when they are accused of something, whether they're in a court or out of a court? And this predates and it pre-exists prior to the courts and the court system. The idea is that the moral thing to do is to say, you know what, unless we can actually establish that it's more likely than not that these allegations are true, we should not be treating this person as a guilty party, whether it's in court or outside of a court. I've heard people suggesting that Kavanagh should just recuse himself, that he should basically just resign from this nomination process and step down, regardless of whether he's guilty or innocent or not. Even if he is innocent, he should still do this because it's become a big circus and a big farce, and to carry on in this way would just to carry on the farce. I'm sorry, but that's simply nonsensical. That's not what true virtue and true courage actually looks like. If you are innocent of an allegation, especially one this serious, the courageous and virtuous thing to do is not to step down. It's not his fault that this is a circus if he's innocent. This is a circus if he's truly innocent here, because those who have falsely accused him have turned this, and the people around them who are politicising it for their own political gain, have turned this into a circus. And the most courageous and moral thing to do in that situation is to face down those people who are perpetrating or promoting falsehoods. That's the moral thing to do. And by the way, Ford has not been treated by those who are promoting her case as a genuine victim of sexual assault here. She is being treated as a political pawn in a game. That's what's happening here. They had her allegations weeks and weeks ago, but they sat on them to try and maximize their political efficacy, to try and use them as a political weapon. So she's not actually someone who they are seeking justice for. What they're trying to do is they're trying to use her as a pawn in a political game. That's what's going on here. But here's the thing. The presumption of innocent until proven guilty is not just a code or a practice that exists within criminal law. It exists there because it is a profoundly important moral principle. It is a profoundly important principle of natural justice. And I can guarantee you that if you were ever accused, even outside of a criminal court, of the same sort of allegations that Kavanaugh has been accused of, you would definitely not want people to be running around saying, well, the presumption of innocence doesn't matter. We can actually treat this person as if their innocence is irrelevant and we don't actually need to establish it, and they need to prove to us that they're not guilty because we're going to start from the presumption of guilt here. As per usual, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so please let me know what you think in the comments section below. And if you like the content I'm creating and you'd like to see more of it, then please support me on PayPal or Patreon. There's a link for both in the video description below. That's right, I can hear my theme music too. I'll see you tomorrow on The Daily Question.